So are American schools, American institutions better to do a PhD or go to graduate school? I actually wanted to talk about that. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Mastak. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor forward to help you out. So I'm going to say this, and it's contentious and it's unfortunate, but I'm going to say on average, American schools tend to be better to do a PhD. And it's not for the reasons that you think it is, right? So you think that it's because that they're going to get you, increased output and, do better and more successful things and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately that stuff is true, but there's some really interesting factors that are going on there. So first of all, why do I say on average that PhD, American institutions are better to do a PhD or go to graduate school? And the reason is that the economic system across the different American universities. So if you take each state and you take their best universities, they tend to be a little bit more productive on average. However, there is huge variance across American universities that are in America. And what I've learned is that there's a ton of universities that sort of are not at the same sort of scale. So you can think of, America as being really, really, it's got this real competitive structure that's behind it. And I've learned this. So by the way, I'm Canadian, born and raised in my PhD in Canada. I'm super proud of Canada and all that it accomplishes. And the institution that I went to, the Ivy Business School at University of Western Ontario, is a rival to a lot of American universities and sort of outperforms many American universities in a lot of different ways. And so, but what I'm saying here is that there's a sort of economic structure where there is a pecking order, and they sort of pick and choose and give resources to the best institutions in each state. So you can imagine America as not being one giant country, but 52 different states, and of those they get the best university in each state gets the most amount of resources. So that's just 52 different universities that are that are on in the global scale. The other thing that is important to realize is that in every other country there is huge variance as well. And there is a big difference between the sort of leading university in a country and then all the other universities that are there, right? So there's I'm thinking of the UK, for example. So you have London School of Economics, you've got Cambridge and Oxford. Those schools are amazing and they rival any university around the world. There's great people that are there. And they're outperform many American universities as well. It's absolutely amazing. The other thing you got to realize is that the economic system is not how you think it is, that there's like big clusters and there's all, just giant success in each university. It's really not like that. It's very much a sort of small world dynamic where one person is doing a lot at a university. So, a star researcher, a star scientist does a lot. And that is the sort of productivity that ends up, driving a lot of, these productivity metrics that you might see and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's one person that is driving that behavior. And that's kind of really hard to replicate. And how they actually get that. So this is a huge reason why American universities tend to, be attractive. So they attract star researchers. So it might be one person, and they're sort of trying to find that one person that is very, very research productive. And so they're willing to pay a lot of money for those folks. And so it's hard for other schools, other universities around the world to compete that have different sort of financial structures and things like that, right? So that's an important thing to think about. Now, here is the thing of you need to realize is not necessarily how I say it is. It's not, this sort of performance advantage and all that kind of stuff. But often what I've seen in how academia actually works, the reason why American universities tend to outperform other universities around the world is because we all believe it is. And we all believe that fact, right? So, or it's not even a fact. We all sort of converge on that. And so first of that, there is, American diffusion, I guess, a McDonaldization, sometimes that's called, where American sort of values and institutions have diffused across the world. And this is very much so in science, where American style research has diffused across all the most amount of the world, in terms of the tenure system, in terms of how research is calculated and all that kind of stuff. Is very, very much there is a history of that has happened, and so it is kind of the de facto standard by that. And it has nothing to do with what's going on right now, but it has everything to do with what happened 40, 50, 60 years ago in terms of the diffusion of American values. Right or wrong, that has definitely happened within most institutions, where there is a transformation that is happening towards more American style science, where there is like the tenure system, for example, which a lot of universities, lots of countries don't sort of have that sort of setup, and they've moved towards that setup. So the top universities in Germany, for example, I've heard that have moved very much towards like a tenure system. So that there's that happens. But then the other thing in terms of what ends up happening, because we believe American ideals and all that kind of stuff, then there's a lot of people, and it's not just me, right? Like I am, I'm Canadian. I'm super proud of Canada, and I would send anybody to Canada. However, it's the rest of the world. It's sort of this marketing problem that it's not the one person that can do something. It's like inflation, right? I was having this conversation with my mother last night. It's like, yeah, you could choose not to have inflation happen. You're the one holdout, but everybody else is doing it, right? So you have to realize that fact that you can't really change what's going on. And so if everybody believes from many other countries that they want to go to America for this sort of American opportunity and all that sort of white picket fence stuff, then they're just going to have a lot more candidates that are going there, and there's a lot more that's going on now. From what I understand, that's changed in the last 4 or 5 years, with sort of American political culture that has happened, and people really thinking about whether they should go to America. This is very much true. But there's still an underlying sort of belief for many people that you go to America for opportunity. So they're going to get a lot more of the, better graduate students. There's just a lot of institutions that are here. And so what that does, there's this, what's called a selection effect or a selection bias. And by automatically, there is a sort of selection or sample selection bias. Automatically they're going to be better because of that, because they're getting opportunities that the institutions are getting opportunities of graduate students, of people that, they could have went to Sweden, for example, because there's really good researchers that are there, but people choose to go to America because of the underlying value system that many people believe, right? It's not as much as I hate to say it, right? Like as much as I sort of despise and I'm uncomfortable with American exceptionalism, and I don't believe it, but there is a lot of people that do. And if they do, that means that they're going to want to go to, America. And there is going to be more, just they're going to be more productive because of that, because they're getting better candidates and things like that. So it's something to really consider. And there's a lot that goes on behind it that you should sort of think about. So are you going to be more successful? Oh, the other thing is because of that, if you have American university as your PhD and all that kind of stuff, you often get a lot more opportunities. So within America, there's definitely a bias towards American universities for you to actually go work at American universities. You get those opportunities. It's huge, right? So this is actually called the liability of foreignness, and that is it's an actual term, and it's something we study in international business, that exists. And it's very true within American universities as well. So, um, it's if people are just uncertain about, and it's not like an insidious thing. They're just uncertain about different institutions from other places around the world. They're going to default to hiring things that they actually know and what they're about. So the more international, the more global of a culture person that you are, you're going to recognize those out of country institutions as really good institutions. But a lot of people aren't, right? There's a lot of people that are, born and raised in a certain way, and then they're going to only hire those people because it's what they feel comfortable with, right? From certain geographic areas, and because there's so many universities in America, like a ridiculous amount, that there is just a lot more job opportunities that are here, and they tend to sort of self-select from American universities. However, here's the caveat. Here's a really big caveat, is that this is all completely changing every single day. And there is a lot of amazing universities around the world that are coming online and becoming stronger and stronger and stronger and getting more and more resources. There is these amazing places in Europe. There's a lot of great places in Asia that are doing really well. There's lots of great places in South America that are really, really coming online and doing extraordinary stuff. Like, there is just a lot of great stuff that's going on around the world. And that's changing dramatically as we speak, because they're getting more resources. And I predict in 10 to 15 years from now, that, especially 20 years from now, that there's going to be economic superpowers in terms of, the university output and research output in many of the sort of BRIC countries that you might have heard about. And they're going to be outperforming what's going on in America. And I'm very certain of this, so that's going to happen because they have less baggage that's going on here in terms of in terms of cultural change and things like that. So, if you are watching this in 2040, my God, things are going to be a lot different, and it's changing every day. And you could start seeing, in Africa too, is really coming online with some great institutions, with great people that are there. And there's lots of people. Here's the really cool thing that's happening. A lot of people that had to move to America before, because of the sort of structure that happened before, they're moving back. They're going home. They're going to the places where they came from, wherever those particular places are, and growing those institutions. So look out. It's no longer going to be that way. It's still kind of this way right now, and there's going to be a long trailing, indicator of all these kind of things. But that's changing, and there's going to be some real significant changes, growing pains, all that kind of stuff that's happening. So with that, give me a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.